Hey, what's up, you guys? So, the other day I had a few thoughts on education in the modern day and jobs and how we tend to stack up against past generations, I guess, and how stuff is just different, how stuff has changed. And honestly, the way that I started thinking about all this was I was visiting Twitter and I am following some folks who are pursuing higher degrees like a master's, a PhD, doctorate, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. Higher education beyond the 4 year stuff. And I noticed that, of course, a lot of young people these days are pursuing that. And I'm not sure if this was a common thing, let's say some 25 to 40 years ago, to be pursuing these kinds of degrees, but I don't know if it's because the folks I follow are in sociology or something, but because I followed them, Twitter also suggested people whom I should follow because they followed them and they are also in academia. And then I said to myself, okay, let me see what all these youngsters are talking about. Hey, Garuda. And again and again, I kept seeing these young people pursuing masters and PhDs on courses that I consider that aren't particularly, what can I say? How can I put this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm invalidating the value of that? But let's say that they are easy courses. What I mean by that is you do not really need to be particularly talented or skilled to grasp the concept being taught in those classes. Like psychology, it was a very easy ass class. There's just no way that you can mess up psychology unless you do not understand basic anatomy. Like, the cerebral cortex does this and the cerebellum does that, things like that. So it's something that it's factual. Once you learn it, you know for a fact how it works, and you don't really need to prove that you understand the concept. You just know it because it's just a bunch of definitions. Now, unless you were trying to maybe bust open someone's skull and try to get in there and fix it, like say if you have some kind of tumor and you're trying to fight it, then I would say that you would need a medical degree that also has some kind of influence that's theoretical, like a psychology course, I guess, because a psychology course can sort of help you understand the functions of the brain, but on an anatomy level, I would expect that you would need something that's more complex than that, like maybe a biology one or an anatomy one, whatever. But, anyways, to get to the point that I am trying to get to is I'm not saying that you pursuing a degree like that is a waste of time, say in history or in psychology, sociology, etc. It's not a waste of time at all because I think that courses like that enable you to strengthen important skills that you cannot really, uh, what can I say, measure, such as communication, organization, management, leadership, character traits, put it that way. I feel like a lot of companies, when you look at them, it always looks for people who are innovative, creative, and energetic and passionate and good with people. So, a degree like that would definitely help you fill in a role like that. But to be expecting that you get hired on the basis that you're an expert in that field is kind of strange to me because when I keep reading about the directions that businesses are going for, it seems like more and more it's about innovation and getting rid of tasks that are repetitive and replacing it with automation. So that's why we keep hearing about places continually implementing self checkouts and junk. Like every single Walmart I've been to in my city, they have been like renovating and installing more self checkouts, which by Walmart standards, it is a pretty fucking good thing because they always have like 40 registers and only three tend to be open at any given time in the day. And in the holidays, at most, is probably six to deal with the thousands of people who just stampede through the store. So it makes sense that you're implementing a technology that people are opting for anyway when you go to the store. When I go to Walmart, I always use the goddamn checkout that I use, the self checkout. So it's not because I'm trying to avoid interactions or whatever. It's just that my order is so small and free of complication that I can handle it individually. And I feel like a lot of people out there are just like me, and that's what they're looking for to enhance their grocery shopping experience. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder, these jobs that require humans would need to be complex. And if you have a degree, or say if you're like me and don't have a degree at all, that doesn't really show that you have a technical mind or a mind that's really good with numbers. You can have all the PhDs in the world that you want to, but companies are not going to be interested in you because honestly, those are degrees that the workload is challenging. And I can imagine that you would be restless having so many papers to write. I'm not going to sit here and claim that the college experience is easy. I understand that. I took AP courses, which are college level courses, and I wanted to kill myself. So believe me, just because I don't go to college doesn't mean I cannot imagine what being immersed in those courses would be. That's why I didn't even try, because I knew that was not the right setting for me. But at the same time, I'm just saying that for you young people who are out there kind of whining and stomping your feet that you're indebted and nobody's hiring you, maybe consider the fact that businesses are moving in a different direction and they're looking for people who can actually build things and make things. And those skills tend to be more complex and rarer, and therefore they are more willing to pay those people better and hire them more than a task that's just able to be filled by anybody. Anybody can have good social skills. Not everyone knows how to manifest them, but I'm just saying that your skills that you are offering with the degree that you're pursuing demonstrate that you're not really someone who's that essential to the company, at least unless you have another superior talent to justify your presence in that company. I understand that I personally would be very dispensable in my company because I don't have skills that go beyond entry level. So if you're spending a lot of time in school just gathering all this academic experience and you're not really getting a real world experience out there, whereas you're also working and as an internal worker in a company, like you have an internal view of what's happening in the business world, you're gonna live a sad life. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from pursuing degrees. That's not how I want to come across. But what I'm saying is that if businesses are not preferring to hire you, I can understand that, especially given how competitive the world is becoming out there. So if you find yourself struggling for a long time, I would say try to somehow implement courses in there that are a little technical and perhaps math driven, because trust me, all that I keep hearing about in my company and then talking to other people who work at other companies doing the same thing that I do, that's all they hear their bosses talking about. Like, how can we make our jobs more efficient and effective? And what that means is, how can we replace the human labor with something that doesn't get fatigued, something that doesn't whine, something that is easier to maintain, something that doesn't get sick. And unfortunately, the human employment is imperfect and inefficient at times, especially if you go into work and you're thinking about the problems that you have at home and those hinder you, and you have excuses as to why you're tired, why say at my level, why your customer service is so shitty, and you're worried about what your kids are doing or where they're at and when you're going to pick them up, and you're trying to leave work early, I can see why the folks high up there would find this option more appealing, and they're trying to develop it and exploit it. But at the same time, when it comes to education, just remember that just like everything in life, stuff evolves. So, although I'm a firm advocate for education and I really would love to see everyone doing what they love and not be overexploited, I guess we all have to play their game of becoming good at the stuff that's relevant these days. Because when it comes to, say, entertainment stuff, there's a lot of fucking entertainment out there. And even if you're not officially going to school for that, how many people who are incredibly influential did not become influential from informal sources? Like, say, we have these stars that come from YouTube and whatnot. So, just how much is school doing for you on that department? I would say pursue stuff that reinforces weaknesses that you have. Don't pursue a degree that you are comfortable at. Like, I would not go to school for a psychology degree because I know that although psychology is an incredibly important course to take, and I call it important because once I took that class in high school, I said to myself, wow, I understand a lot of behaviors in my family, a lot of behaviors from my colleagues, not colleagues, but classmates. And now I can say that thanks to that class, I understand what some of my colleagues do and whatnot. But to focus on that, it's a little bit frustrating because you're wasting all this time and money on such courses that honestly, if you go online, you can actually get that information for free, in my opinion. But then again, like I said, I gotta always make a little disclaimer. I haven't gone, I don't know the experience. I'm not trying to say that I know someone really, really close who's doing that to really know for sure, but as someone who actually works really close with the people who do the hiring, this is what I have observed that may put you at a disadvantage, and this is what I am trying to warn you about and give you a heads up on. Because if you look at the, say, the more powerful companies, they have a very different view, and it all seems to be going more automated. Automation means technology. Technology is like you gotta make your mind more tech oriented. I'm not telling you to all of a sudden become obsessed with computers and love them and learn how to put them together and pull them apart. But I'm just saying that it looks more and more like the jobs that we know right now that are entry level will probably become the kind that are like at distribution centers or some shit. And then everything else that you're just used to doing as your first job, all of that is going to be gone very soon. And this is not really news. I'm not trying to say that I have information that wow is going to change your life or something. I'm not trying to claim that. I'm just saying that for all of these kids who are like really thrilled about getting their masters or PhDs on stuff like psychology, you're gonna have a rough time out here. Just saying. Unless you have an idea on how to start your own business and become financially independent that way, then by all means do whatever it is that floats your boat. But to expect companies to find you outstanding because you have a high degree and you're also demanding the best pay out there, it's not reasonable. I get it. Like, I would understand why we're not hiring the doctor so and so who has this impressive degree. So, again, I'm not trying to shit on those courses. I'm just trying to say that because people do not tend to use their most critical thinking in the midst of being in the quest of searching for a new candidate, that stuff is going to get brushed over. And what I mean by that is it seems like you have to be constantly tailoring a resume so that the place that you're applying to can understand how you're going to be useful in their company. Like, say that I'm a teacher. As a teacher, I have good communication skills, good writing skills, good, what can I say? I can read, analyze stuff, come up with plans, tutor, all those things. But someone who doesn't really think about that, they're like, oh, this is a teacher. How is a teacher going to be a strong influence in my leadership team? And I'm like, yeah, the teacher would be a very good candidate because they have all of these skills. They would be good with numbers to some extent. You have to be able to understand graphs and plot them and write and just put information together. But for some reason, if you say that you have 18 years of experience as a teacher, other companies just don't get that. They want you to actually break it down for them. They cannot infer what makes a teacher good. They expect for you to have the experience in that industry already. If you're a teacher, if you're used to teaching and you're suddenly trying to go into, I don't know, to randomly say something, work for Apple, they're going to be like, how are you going to be useful in my company? So for me, I can use my critical analysis and be like, well, the background that this person possesses enables them to do A, B, and C. But of course, here you have to do their work as well. So maybe have the right degree that can back you up in places that are actually hiring, and then maybe you would have a better chance out here. But anyways, I'm done rambling. I just thought that I would put that out there and just express it because it's something that I see a lot. So whatever. People pursue masters for many reasons, not all of them good, but some of them expect the world to hand them a living, and it's these people I find that are the ones whining the rest of us know better. Yeah, true to that. It's all about purchasing your status. Like, we get it. You have this degree, you got into a lot of debt for it. You consider yourself the Einstein of the millennial group. Good for you. There are many of us out there who can claim to be Einstein just because we can hold PhDs now. But did you actually think about how having a master's or a PhD was going to benefit you? Were you just doing it to purchase a status? Or did you have a plan about where you were going to go and what you were going to do that would increase the odds of you being hired in the manner that you expect? Like, if you're looking for a very good high paying job, maybe, just maybe, again, you should pursue something that's relevant. Because I know that there are therapists out there that for one little session, they can charge an outrageous amount of money per hour. But those people, their business worked for them. I don't know what kind of formula they follow, but they happened to build it up somehow and it works for them. You cannot go into the workforce expecting for you to succeed at the same rate that they did. You know, it's kind of like YouTube. When I sit here and I do this, I am not expecting to become a huge star because I know that I am not trying. And even if I were trying, I understand that the competition out there is fierce and it's not possible for everyone to make it. So I know better than to rest my dreams, livelihood, and future on this very unreliable, very ever changing platform. So I feel like a lot of kids out there just feel like just by buying that status, you're going to have the world at your fingertips. And I'm like, no, because anybody can get a PhD if it's possible to get PhDs in courses like that. So I would say that generations ago, a PhD would have been impressive because a lot of the knowledge that is so easy for us was actually innovative back then. But now that information lost its value, and therefore if that's what you're pursuing, then you're pursuing something that is, what can I say, expired. But anyways, that's just me. I don't have a background on what that's like, but whatever. You know, I don't have a way to really back this up. I didn't research or anything. I'm just rambling. Message removed to try and word a better university level is completely different to what came before. The first year of my course had 12 dropouts who assumed it would be more of the same or easy. And that's why I say I understand that when you level up, it doesn't mean that, like, when I talk about sociology courses, I'm not saying that they are not going to have their challenging aspects. You're going to have to write a lot. You're going to have to research a lot. You're going to have to put this information together. You're going to need works cited. You're going to need to write your stuff. Like, isn't there like a thesis or something that you got to write? I don't know what the fuck that is, but apparently it's a really big document that you got to compose and present, and then you graduate. I don't fucking care. But that's what I'm saying. That stuff, it teaches you to organize yourself, organize information, work well under pressure, and submit stuff on time, meet deadlines. But what you're actually learning, what kind of skills are you actually obtaining that are going to be exclusive to make you hiring material? That's what I'm saying. Honestly, I feel like success in college or university would ride on you being able to be on time and also meeting deadlines. Because from, I want to say three people who I've talked to who went to college, all they kept complaining about is how the deadline for an assignment just crept on them. And then they used to have to scramble at the last minute for stuff to present, and then expecting that they would somehow make it pass. And I'm pretty sure that you relate to that, Ollie. You tell me pretty often that you are working on this one assignment and it's only the night before that you actually realize, oh, let me put all this information together and turn it in. And sometimes, even with all that effort, you may need to work on it a little longer. See what I mean? But I get it. College is a whole nother level. So while you're at it, how about if you actually do something that's more challenging, like information that you really cannot find elsewhere? I don't know. I guess as someone who has the internet, it's difficult for me to see the value of college. But I also know that a lot of important people you meet through college, and that's a good source for networking. So, but at the same time, the internet is a good way to network as well. I mean, I have met a lot of important people in my life through the internet. I'm not saying that the internet is the new college, because, there's a lot of information out there that's misleading and deceiving and all that bad stuff. But I guess you gotta learn how to use your critical thinking to determine what's true and what's not. So I don't know. I wish I just knew better how to word what I have in my brain better, but anyways, at least I'm getting the conversation started. As for whether people care about your qualification, that's something you really should know before you go for it. In England, we have a phrase, in for a penny, in for a pound. Basically, it means, well, I've already gone this far, why stop now? I think that's what a lot of master students were thinking. I had a plan for my education, but it has experienced some turbulence lately, as you know. So, I guess in a situation like that, there must be a degree out there that would, I don't want to sound like cheesy, but would somewhat protect you from those types of challenges. A a degree that is flexible. that you can go into multiple industries and knock on their door and they can consider you, as opposed to limiting it to just one possible career, like teaching or something else. See what I mean? Like something that is uh, flexible. It enables you to pursue more than one thing without limiting your possibilities, of course. I know people who are going on to do PhD solely because they're scared to leave education and don't know what else to do, and they freely admit this. I mean, it makes sense. When I was finishing up high school, I kept telling myself, holy shit, I'm turning 18 years old, I'm gonna be an adult, and I am leaving the security and protection of the four walls in my classroom that I have known for 14 years of my life. It is a scary thought because now, officially, when you go to school, nobody really is as concerned about you. And what I mean by that is when you're young, when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, teachers really gotta be on the lookout for you and how you're holding up. Are you a child who is abused at home? Are you a child who is hungry at home? Are you a child experiencing any kind of neglect? And you have a shit ton of support and protection for that. But now, all of a sudden, when you're grown, all of that depends on you. You have to look for help, look for support. You have to call people, you have to email people. You actually have to have money to do some things, whereas probably, hopefully, your initial education was free. Now you have to learn how to manage all of that. It's so life changing. Your experience just changes. So, for people who stay in school longer, I absolutely get it. I mean, I work and I fucking hate it. Like, the fact that I am leaving my youth behind, I already gave the end of my teenage years to some big company, and now my 20s are being absorbed by some big company. I hate it. How do you think that makes me feel? Like, I'm working, I believe I'm working hard. I'm tired, my feet hurt. I come home with headaches, I'm hungry, and this and that, and I'm still just getting by. So I guess again, because I decided to not pursue an education, that is what I set myself up, and I get it. But even if I were educated, I still would have to work for someone. I still would have to respond to someone else's schedule. I still have to make money for someone else, and they will just give me the scraps. Is it really that different? All I did was purchase status. I have a higher income. I have a little bit more money. But when you have a little bit more money, you lose something still because, say, you get taxed more. In order to make more money, you have to spend even more time at a job. You have to be responsible for much more. That's why you get paid more. I get it. But tell me, is it really worth it? Unless you work for yourself, I highly doubt that you will ever find full satisfaction working for someone else, especially when you have submitted yourself to the system of you got to go to college so that you earn yourself some prestige to be considered out there. And don't even get me started on the fact that in order to get to a lot of places, it's best if you have connections. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just not down with the idea of stressing out over school. Um, Especially with the goals that I have in life being so simple. I just want to be able to eat, be alive, rest. And I'm an indoor person, so I don't need to be like visiting anywhere exotic. You know, the idea of traveling doesn't really like bring me excitement, but the planet is big. It would be good to get out sometime. But I don't know. That's just me. You know, I have a very simple mind, and maybe that's why I have simple opinions. And that's okay. I just want to be different. I want to be me. Let's see. Undergrad dissertation, 10,000 words. Postgrad thesis is 20,000 words, PhD dissertation, basically a book. I think the main draw of the degree course is the experience of doing it. I loved undergrad and have grown tremendously as a person through it, but it gets harder to justify the higher you go up. For me, honestly, I was ready for like real world experiences, and I know that an entry level job doesn't really give me an outlook in the world like I should, but I consider myself someone to be clever at using my available resources. So, what I have done is hang out with leadership, ask them questions. Hey, what do you like about your job? What do you hate about your job? What's the most challenging aspect? What do you think you excel best at? If you could implement something tomorrow, what would it be? You know, how would you be innovative in this industry? Just stuff like that. And sometimes I have been allowed to participate in certain functions, and I'm like, okay, if it were not for this, I would not understand why I do what I do and why leadership acts the way that it acts and why management also comes up with absurd stuff. So, and then how about if you think about your managers? A lot of the times when we encounter something we don't like, we tend to bitch immediately about our bosses or something. And I'm like, have you thought about the boss of your boss? Do you think that they're not breathing down their necks either? So, stuff like that. You're really not thinking about that unless you go through that experience. And that's something I value. I have learned so much from those types of frustrations that other people experience, and thus that affects their performance, and their performance being affected affects my quality of my days, because I'm wondering why I'm working with negative people sometimes, and then I find out the source of that, and then I'm like, okay, I could be negative too, but I choose not to. But people are different, so not everyone is going to manage that with the same level of efficiency. And I don't want to say that's okay, but again, people are different. So just get out there and talk to people. That's one of the best things you can do for yourself. Talk to people and experience shit, especially away from the protection of school. Funny you should say that my undergrad was about the most flexible degree you could have in a single field. They really emphasize employability and taught a crap ton of skills and principles, whereas master's is a lot more narrow focus and honestly self congratulatory. It's like they stopped trying to justify the curriculum. I'm in the second year of receiving my. I cannot tell that. Anyway, that type of degree. And I plan on doing my honors when I'm done, even though I know that I'm not guaranteed a job. The best decision I ever made was learning how to trade stocks. We really need to have stock trades as a major. Hail fucking yes! Why do we not get taught about the stock market and its volatility and how to invest and all that? I made a stream about this so many months ago, and I was just so confused, so lost. And at least that's something that more and more people keep talking about. So inevitably, you will learn something about it. But of course, that's all done deliberately. If you learn how to invest your money and make it work for you as opposed to you working for money, you end up climbing in society to where you can become financially independent and then nobody can hire you as their slave. I get it. But at the same time, isn't that crazy that we are now realizing the value of the courses that we don't have available for us and we're trying to make it a thing? But, anyways, my undergrad performing arts course basically taught you every job you could possibly have in that industry, a surprising amount, and focused on trying to give you those skills. We don't get taught about investing because the biggest investors don't want people to know, because that might take the wealth away from them, because God forbid we get an equal playing field. Exactly. That's exactly it. And of course, for me, the most abominable thing every time I get into a political discussion of that sort, I always tell myself, isn't it crazy that these people think you don't deserve nice things? Like, what the fuck? You know? What makes you think that you're entitled to the best stuff of the land? and expect for people to be okay with your batshit crazy mind, you know? But, anyways, I should really stop being a potty mouth, but it just silently it makes me angry because it's not fair at all. It's like you are engaged in a war, involved in a war where you are armed with the very basics. You have like rocks and sticks, and they have cannons and bombs and nuclear weapons. That's how I feel like sometimes. But, anyways, I think more people are becoming more aware. Everyone is like waking up, and it's a slow process. Like, if you study history, all the changes took a long time to process, and usually anytime a big change took place, there was violence involved, unfortunately. I'm not trying to summon that in the present, but maybe that's the next revolution that we need, another major battle of some sort. It's gonna happen. I mean, it is kind of happening already, but it's just crazy. I think the solution is so simple, but of course, no one wants to give up their goodies, especially if it's been in your family for generations. But that's when I bring up the question of what are your individual values? Are they your individual values, or are those values handed down from generation to generation? How about if you determine what your values are? But, anyways, of course, you get raised differently. What would I know? I don't belong in that society, so whatever. All right, guys, I think that I am done with my rambling. I think I put everything out there that I meant to say. If there's something else that I missed, I'll be sure to come back to it because I usually remember something vital that I should have said that would have definitely made this more focused. But, anyways, at least I put the topic out there, and I'll see the wonderful opinions that you guys got to contribute like you regularly do. Anyways, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And for anyone catching the stream later, make sure that you leave me a comment, and I will see you soon.